one of the biggest like goals in my life is to, even like help by 1% to educate people on what Central Asia is, even like past Kazakhstan, like not Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, like all of that, just like for people to know that even exists.
Right.
I would be very happy if like I could even like help a little bit in that sense.
Those were the words once said to me over a Skype video chat by my colleague at the Foreign Policy Research Institute and fellow student, Janar Irgirbay. I sat down with her to discuss her life and experiences as a Kazakh-American at Koreana, a restaurant in University City.
So I was born there. I lived there until I was 7, and then I actually moved. My whole family moved to Israel, and I lived there for 4 years. And then I've lived in Philadelphia since then, so since 11 years old.
So why stay in Philly?
It was just my mom's job. She got a job at Drexel University, so it made sense to just be here. And we've been here ever since. I mean, I like it. I love Philly.
What do you like about Philly?
I've lived here for 10 years, and it's the longest place I've lived at, so I'm just kind of home now.
Janar is from the former Soviet Republic, Kazakhstan, a Eurasian country located in northern Central Asia, which extends to parts of Eastern Europe. As a former conquest of 18th century Russia and former Soviet Republic in the 20th century, Kazakhstan has a rather uniquely established national identity, furnished in part by the relationship it has had with Russia. The Kazakh ethnicity is based on a compilation of Turkic and Mongol nomadic tribes from the 13th century. Still, however, with regard to physical appearance, these specifics remain out of focus for many people who all too easily generalize others and thus infringe upon how they categorize themselves.
It's very complicated because they look at me and they're like, oh, obviously, like, you're Asian, whatever. And then you tell them where you're from, and they're like, oh, so you're not really Asian. And I'm like, but it's in the continent, like, what else would I be? Like, I'm not white. Like, in what place would I be white, right? So, it gets really murky, I would say, when I get categorized. Even, like, when I fill out my FAFSA, they say, like, oh, pick your race, and then they explain what Asian is, and, like, I'm not in there. So I'm like, so what should I be? Like, do I click white? Do I pick other? So it's hard in that sense because you yourself like don't really know whether you're classified as this. But I feel like because I get treated as one, because I get the same like racist jokes as other East Asians, I'm classified as that because that's just how other people perceive me as. I think because I am very like East Asian passing, it was pretty easy. You just kind of get accepted into the groups that look like you. So a lot of my friends and a lot of my sister's friends are all predominantly East Asian because the way we get treated in America is very similar. Like, people look at me and they're like, oh, Chinese, we can say racist things that are meant for Chinese people. So because of that, it's very easy to make friends, I would say. Like, over spring break, we had a whole group and like half of us were Chinese but the other half was not, but everybody was like, oh, like let me take you back to China, like you look like a Chinese gangster, so it's very easy to like find common things with people around you. So I didn't think that I had a lot of trouble. And again, because I grew up in Northeast Philly, there was like a lot of Russians there, so my Russian skills really helped me too.
From its inception in 1682, the city of Philadelphia has become the home of a significant number of immigrant communities and continues to be a magnet for migrants all over the world. As such, Philadelphia joined the Organization of World Heritage Cities in 2015, becoming the first World Heritage City in the United States. As Georgia State University's Associate Professor Catherine E. Wilson explained in a 2011 review of the publication Global Philadelphia Immigrant Communities Old and New, Philadelphia is often a second or third destination for new immigrants who tend to disperse throughout the greater region. In addition to the generations of immigrant groups that have established communities in Philadelphia, new waves of immigrants have come to populate the area. In 2016, the city had more than 232,000 residents who were born abroad, representative of an increase of 69% since the year 2000. From 2000 to 2016, a period in which the city's population grew for the first time in half a century, the number of foreign-born residents rose by roughly 95,000, while the number of U.S.-born Philadelphians fell by 44,500, thus continuing to shape Philadelphia's locally global history. Presently, Northeast Philadelphia is home to a vast majority of migrants from Russia, Ukraine, and former Soviet republics such as Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, ultimately amassing to a generally identifiable Russian-speaking community. Their presence can be seen in the strip malls and restaurants along Bustleton Avenue. Janar explained how Russian acts as the predominant host language in the Northeast and how this affects Russian-speaking immigrants living there.
It's easy. You don't necessarily have to learn English. I know so many immigrants from the Soviet Union that only know one word, and it's Bustleton, like the big street in Northeast Philly. Like, because they just don't have to learn English because everything is so Russified over there. Russified. Even stores have like Russian names on them because there's so many Russian-speaking people. It's just very easy. Yeah.
The founding of the Northeast, as it is known today, can be traced back to the 1970s and 80s after the U.S. agreed to lift some trade barriers in exchange for the Soviet government lifting travel restrictions. However, the onset of international refugee migration from the former United Soviet Socialist Republics and Russia to the United States, specifically to the Northeast Philadelphia area, increased after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Scholars have explained this phenomenon by posing the argument that many of these immigrants were encouraged and supported by Jewish communities in the receiving countries. This migration pattern is shared with other earlier ethnic enclaves, such as Albanian Muslims who resettled in the Philadelphia areas of Fishtown and South Kensington, overlapping a small Palestinian enclave that had formed after the Yom Kippur War in 1973. Unlike Janar, Asil, another Kazakh person living in Philadelphia, grew up nowhere near the Northeast, nor did he live there for any period of time. Asil studied at Temple University while he lived in Philadelphia. Although he recently moved away to pursue a career opportunity, we were introduced by a mutual friend and fellow Arcadia student. I gave him a call to develop a better understanding of what life was like for him without a well-defined Kazakh community, living so far from native Russian speakers, and how that affected his sense of belonging. Where did you live in Philadelphia? And what was it like there?
The part where I lived was like northwest Philly. It was really close to West Philly, and it was close to like main line, like Bala Kenwood and stuff.
Yes.
And I was like servicing my car there, I think in Devon, Pennsylvania, and it was super racist. Like even I would say like African Americans treat me better than white people did, because white people there, on the mainland, even I went to like a restaurant or something, it was super rude and like racist, like they wouldn't come to serve me. I would wait like 20 minutes to like just to like order,
Yeah.
I'll say I had more good experience.
Okay.
Like in terms, I'm a big traveler. I like to like travel, kind of my hobby. So I like about Philly, like everything like is close. Like New Jersey, you can take a bus to New York.
Why did you live in that area instead of living in the Russian-speaking community in the Northeast that's already established?
Because it's far from Temple, like I lived in Strawberry Mansion for like almost 3 years. So it was just like 10 minutes driving. from there to Temple campus, to the main campus. And whereas in northeast, it would take me hours, as far in traffic jams.
Do you think that other Kazakhs would have an easy time adjusting to life in Philly?
I would say I don't really know because I experience things rather than telling something. So it's like like if they would move to DC or New York, it would be easier to adjust because it's like, and that's why, or Houston, that's why they go there and kind of. Because I had a friend from Beijing. He's a Kazakh. He lived in Rockville, Maryland, which is like right next to DC. And like I traveled there, and like the community there is huge in DC, so it's really easy to get along there. To adjust to it's kind of, but Philadelphia is really I would say I didn't really make any Kazakh friends. I went to the Uzbek restaurant, and one of the servers was Kazakh.
Well, would you say that you ever felt isolated in any way?
Yeah, kind of, because Philly is also tough, it's pretty tough. It's rude, the first year I was I got robbed at the edge,
No way!
Yeah, there was a guy, I think, he was from Maryland, Baltimore or something, really gangster, a blood, he claimed that he was a blood and stuff, Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So then I moved from there to that part wasn't safe, but my landlord was a retired cop from New York, so it was very secure there. The cameras and stuff.
In light of your own experiences, where would you recommend living in Philadelphia to other people from Kazakhstan?
I mean, I like Center City and South Philly a lot. I would live in South Philly, on Chestnut or on Spruce Street. I like that. I like that kind of vibe there. And yeah, I mean, it depends from person to person. But Kazakhs, a lot of Kazakhs wouldn't go there because there are no really Kazakh people there unless they go to UPenn or Drexel or. Because in Temple, I haven't really met Kazakh people. I met some Russians, but the Russians, they kind of racist. Yeah, they're quite different. I like the vibe of Philadelphia. It's not like New York. It's not like DC or Houston. It's real. People are more real. Really. You can see who's who.
So, how are Kazakh people who are here in the U.S. or in the Philadelphia area already contacting one another?
They kind of go on those websites or chats.
Right.
I don't really go to Facebook anymore, but they have if they want to sell something or there's a meeting, they usually post things there. So and you can see probably if you go, but it's not an open group. You have to send a request, and then
Asil's experience connecting with other Kazakh people via the internet suggests that perhaps, while there isn't a materially established presence of the Kazakh people in Philadelphia that represents them in the same way that those from Uzbekistan or Russia might be represented, they are still here.
Yet their closest physical connection to one another is living among other distinct ethnic groups in a community that is most often identified as Russian-speaking, despite the various additional languages spoken by some of the people within these diverse ethnic groups. The flags on the parkway are another material representation of ethnic groups within immigrant communities and Philadelphia's local global history, representing 90 international flags including Russia and Uzbekistan. Only, by comparison, the number of flags are not indicative of every existing community in Philadelphia. One of those communities is the Kazakh. There isn't even a flag of Kazakhstan raised on the boulevard. In acquiring more information on the matter, I came to find the petition of a Kazakhstan native and former international student from UPenn. This student attempted to contact the city of Philadelphia about the missing flag, but her efforts rendered fruitless. As a result, I reached out to the Office of City Representatives after talking to the former student with a shared concern about the absence of the Kazakhstan flag. This representative explained that Kazakhstan currently is on the city's waiting list for review and consideration for placement on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, due to a lack of space on the parkway and the financial challenges of Philadelphia, and that the flag program is currently aspiring to resolve the space issue and find new places to erect new flags. He continued to say that the protocol and requirements for securing a flag include nations that were included initially in the display of flags in 1976 when the program was first established during the city's bicentennial celebration, nations with a Philadelphia sister city or partner city-state relationship, nations with an official consulate in Philadelphia, nations and former nations that have significant historical, ethnic, or commercial ties to Philadelphia, and nations that are recognized by the State Department. Reinforcing the representative's response is the Parkway Museums District Philadelphia website, which states under the frequently asked questions that the flags are representative of countries with significant populations in Philadelphia. But what exactly determines the significance of a population? Philadelphia remains a global city, as it has been since its inception. While magnetism attracts migrants from all over the world, their experiences become intertwined with the history of the city. The fact remains that more representation is desired, and I would argue, needed, in the city. The narratives shared with me have a sense of isolation and fragmented definitions of their identities, influencing their experiences and marking the significance of representing themselves and their ethnic group's population. There are some Kazakh people in Philadelphia, but there's not a well-established community presence or visibility. This affects how they are represented and seems to have left them subject to generalization due to a lack of representation of their distinct ethnic group in the overall Philadelphia community. As a fellow Philadelphian and an American, I continue to ask questions about identity and representation in a community and how that shapes the experiences of the people who migrate here.